Good afternoon. How are you? Well, I'm out late today because I went to look at uh, ginkgo trees, and it was fascinating. And I'll probably post some of those pictures. Different kind of nature than here, but it was a trip away, and so I'm getting back when the sun is setting and it's a little cooler, but it's invigorating. So I'm glad to be with you. With the president out of the country, what are the members of the Hill doing? Well, I know some of the staffers, and they're working through the weekend on the bill. And so that you have some idea what that's about, it's about 1,700 pages. So you can imagine what the revisions are going to be like to that. And then you can imagine what the fights are going to be about the revisions, about the language that they use. All of that said and done, everybody keeps talking like this is a go. And I've been on the Hill in some crazy drafting exercises, and like they say, it's not over till it's over. But they are seemingly approaching something that didn't appear possible. Will they succeed? I hope they do. I don't know if they can. But we'll find out on Monday or Tuesday, I suppose, when all these exhausted staffers and members of the House convene again. There's a drafting resource in the House that can do a lot of this. That is, they're instructed what a member or committee wants, and then they draft that. Some of the language I know has been written in draft, hoping this or that item would get into it. So, well, we'll hear about that soon, I suppose. Going to well, it's not my favorite issue, but it's one that persists and is not ever dealt with convincingly, or it seems to me, in a way that shows that we actually respect or think it's important to follow the law and the Constitution. And I've heard some people of late say, oh, why should we do that? Why should we enforce the law? And the answer is because of the chaos and its absence. You know, and one example of that is we issue a subpoena, and I've been over it, I apologize, and the AG is sitting on it. How many days? How much does he need to know? The guy didn't show up. The guy didn't produce the documents on a date certain. He was subpoenaed. The subpoena is valid. Put him in jail. Make him testify or sit in jail. That's it. It's not very complicated. Now, and this comes at a time when another witness for the House, Mr. Eastman, we learn, wrote a memo to Pence's assistant saying that it was his failure, that is, Pence's failure to break the law, to violate the Constitution, that prompted the riot. Can you believe the gall of this guy? That he would say that your failure to break the law meant there was a riot. What kind of language does that come from except fascist, except the mob? And that passes. And again, none of these guys have been spoken with by our so-called Attorney General. He is, of the Attorney Generals that I can think of, you know, there were the ones who were very active, who were good. Of course, I have a soft spot for Bobby Kennedy chasing the mob. And then we have others like John Mitchell who violated the law. But the one thing you can say about both of them is they were active as hell. What is this guy doing? Why would you want this job? This would be a sweet job for anybody who really cared to reform. But do you not have the energy to do it? What is holding you back? Who is reining you in? That's the trouble with our so-called Department of Justice. He said, this is Eastman again, in a memo that he wrote, by the way, he wrote this down, and it was going to prompt an op-ed by Pence's assistant, but he didn't put it forward then, but now it's become public, so we have a better idea about specifically what was happening. And Eastman said to Pence's assistant, and therefore to Pence as well, that he didn't do what it was necessary to do. Well, Garland is not doing what is necessary to do, which is to call these guys on the carpet, that's like the grand jury, and ask them questions, or at least have the FBI question them. To do nothing is unacceptable. I was just passed by a bunch of children that are having early Halloween, going from place to place in a truck. That's pretty funny. So we'll see next week if justice moves. We'll see next week if that bill moves. we have a situation in which the question is becoming, we've gone from, well, the virus and schools figuring out ways to go forward, and now there are threats in the school. And, you know, as a kid, my parents always told me that when I told them what some other kids said, that really what I was repeating to them was what their parents believed, which they heard and then said and had no idea what they were talking about. Well, apparently this phenomenon, I expect, is now matured into violence in some of the schools. And we hear ridiculous things by people saying things, oh, we got to get guns, you know. This is their answer for everything, because between those two ears, there's nothing but air. I remember the Dominican nuns would say to us that empty vessels make the most noise. Now, I want you to know it was directed at me, because I was always talking. They couldn't get me to be quiet. I hope you'll listen to my podcast tomorrow. It's Let Freedom Ring. I've decided to rename it. I'm doing it alone. And I have an interview with Father Devron, who is the president of my high school, who's written an essay about the question of critical race theory. And he's a fascinating man, very smart. And I enjoyed talking to him. And so it's about 40 minutes long. And we have a dialogue about it. And he wrote an article that I forwarded earlier, and he's had some changes of thoughts since that article. He's like an example of the kind of discussion we should have publicly, whether you agree with Christopher or not. That's his first name, because we don't have a public dialogue that's very meaningful when people lie and distort and misrepresent what's really at issue. So here I am in the sunset of the evening on my marvelous trail. I don't think there are many ginkgo trees here, but I'll show you some pictures later. All the best. Hope you had a great day. Talk to you tomorrow. Bye-bye.